So what microphone should you get for voiceover? Well, my first setup was a Rode NT1A and a Focusrite Scarlett. And it was fine. Until I got the MKH416, the Sennheiser MKH416, and almost immediately after I got this microphone, I ended up getting, I would say, my first serious voiceover job. If you have absolutely no idea what to get, you have no interest in figuring out what to get, and you have the money, then you could get a Neumann TLM 103 or a Neumann U87 or the aforementioned MKH416. They are industry standards. Studios recognize them. If you tell a studio, I have a Neumann microphone, that means something, especially in certain markets like Italy, where so many of them are stuck in the past. They think if you have a Neumann microphone, you're serious. If you have an Austrian audio, like, gosh, some of those sound fantastic, but they just don't know them, and so they think, oh, it's just a random microphone. I don't know what that is. It's not a Neumann, so I'm not interested. All the major dubbing production houses in Italy, all of them use Neumann U87s. So if it's not a Neumann, it's what are you doing? I don't know. Like, what is that? I don't get it. Come to the studio. I can't record you remotely because you don't have a Neumann microphone. Like, it's dumb. There's no question about it. It's dumb. But you have to work with the clients. You can't really put your foot down and say, no, I'm going to use this unknown brand. I'm going to use this DIY microphone, which, maybe it sounds amazing, but they just you either get with the market or they pick somebody else. And unfortunately, that's the case. That really is the case, because I've had conversations with people, and I was at a dubbing studio for a job. I was doing something for like a television, like a docu-series on World War II, and I spoke to the person running the studio or running the session, and I said, look, if there are any revisions, I can actually do this remotely if you want. And he said, okay, well, maybe we can. And I said, I have a Neumann TLM 103. And then it was like an instant reaction. They're like, oh, okay, so you can record remotely. The room, like, what about my room? What about the studio? No, I have a Neumann microphone, which means I can record remotely. That seemed to have been the determining factor there. So what microphone do you choose? It's tough. If you have a deep male voice, just get one of the industry standards. If you have a really bright voice, I would maybe push you more towards the Neumann TLM 102, despite not having had much personal experience with it. I know a few people who have them. You could go to the MKH416. That one, I think, responds a bit better to slightly brighter voices. I don't like the TLM 103 with a bright voice, particularly bright, raspy voices. Some of the worst professional-sounding voiceovers I've heard have come from TLM 103s. So it's not just cut and dry, get that microphone, and that's it. It really helps if you can test. It really helps if maybe you have you buy something which has a return window, because this microphone, while it's great, it's not good for every voice. Not every voice is going to sound great on it. If, let's say, I will say this, you primarily do auditions for, on Casting Call Club or stuff like that, apart from the budget, let's say Rode NT1, I've heard some really nice sounding voiceovers from an Austrian Audio OC18. Actually, some of the nicest, most natural sounding voiceovers I've heard have been through that microphone. It's not a bright microphone, which makes it, in my opinion, really good for long form narration and anything that just needs to be natural. If you've got a really dense mix and you do a lot of commercials, then I really would push you towards the MKH416, because it just seems to cut through really dense mixes. Even though tonally the TLM 103 and the 416 sound not too different, this just seems to cut through a little more. Even though I personally prefer the sound of my voice on the TLM 103, I think it's more natural sounding. For me, at least, it's bright, but it's more natural. This just seems to be clearer. I don't really understand how it achieves that. Some people say it's distortion or something. maybe. You could use the TLM-103 for certain types of jobs and the MKH-416 for other types of jobs. And you'd be served quite well because you have options, and it's good to have options. Plus, on top of that, you have a backup. So if one of these breaks, for whatever reason, at least you have a spare and you don't have to downgrade your sound. So for example, if my 416 breaks, I can just do everything with the TLM-103 until I can afford to buy this again. Conversely, if the TLM-103 breaks, I can use the 416 and I'm fine. The issue is, if I only have one of these, then I will have to go back to my Rode NT1A, which, it's fine, it'll work, but it's a downgrade sonically, and that is another factor. You could get a Neumann U87 and, you'd have the industry standard microphone that sounds good on pretty much everyone, but you don't have everything else. You don't have the interface, you don't have the preamp, you don't have the good conversion quality of something like a Neumann MT48 audio interface. You don't have the training, you don't have the subscriptions to voices.com or Voice123 or Bodalga where you can get your auditions. You miss out on a lot on spending so much money on a microphone. So just to summarize this rambling a little, if you have a deep male voice, then I think any of the industry standard microphones will work fine. If you're on a budget, you could use a Rode NT1. I say that because it's a very quiet microphone. If you have a bright female voice, then you may want to do some more investigation. I think the Austrian Audio OC818 or OC18 are good options, and good luck, because you'll need it.